by the end of the session, she was able to get him to do the most amount of steps in the walker that he's ever been able to do. So when Leon was about 6 months old, that was when we first noticed that his head was quite large for his age. My dad's actually a doctor, and he noticed that something wasn't quite right, and he recommended that we see a pediatrician right away. And so we booked him in for the next day, and the pediatrician measured his head circumference, and it was about, off the chart in terms of head size for his age. And we realized that something was going quite wrong, and we had to be rushed to the emergency room for immediate brain surgery, as he had hydrocephalus, which is a rare sort of swelling of liquid in your brain, where the liquid can't actually go out to the rest of your body and do the normal sort of flow. And the neurosurgeon needed to put a shunt into his head to help regulate the fluid, which is like a little device that they use. And then that sort of worked a little bit for a few weeks, but then there was 4 or 5 more rounds of brain surgery just to get it right, because it was a bit finicky. Sometimes it wasn't working. We had to go back in, get it cleaned, replaced. And now finally he has an ETV, which is just a cut inside of his brain, which allows the fluid to flow naturally. And as a result of all of that brain surgery, Leon has hemiplegia. So that's a limited mobility on the left side of his body. That's why we've been getting lots and lots of therapy and seeing CPA. And as a result of that, we're really trying hard to get him to start walking and being able to stand on his own.
First impressions of Leon was that he was definitely just a big pocket rocket. So full of energy, kind of full of life, and a very independent little boy.
It's been really great coming here and seeing Erlyn as Leon's dedicated physiotherapist. So we've been seeing her every Wednesday for the past couple of months now. And in that very first session, we sort of sat down together and she asked me, what are your goals for Leon's development? What would you like to see him achieve over the next few months or a couple of sessions? And I really sort of, we talked about how we really want to get him to start walking. And that was a huge priority for us. And already we've seen, I think in that very first session, I was so shocked at what he was able to achieve in a short amount of time. She would sort of understand how to motivate him, and he was becoming a bit more receptive to Erlyn. But by the end of the session, she was able to get him to do the most amount of steps in the walker that he's ever been able to do with a therapist. So we were just really impressed.
I've heard now that he's actually starting to pull up to stand at preschool, at daycare, which is really, fantastic in terms of encouraging his independence. During sessions, he's also climbing over large steps now by himself, where he was previously needing, my help to bring his legs over. And also, we've just come, a long way with the walking as well. He didn't really enjoy kind of standing in his frame to begin with, let alone walking or taking steps. So we've been able to achieve some, really lovely walking practice in his walking frame so far. So I'm really optimistic about, where he's going to go with his mobility.
Early intervention is so incredibly important because kids from that age of 0 to 3 are developing their neural pathways, and their brain is a lot more flexible at that age. So any physiotherapy or occupational therapy that you do with a young child is going to be much more effective than if you're doing that same therapy years later, when they're a bit older. And so that's what we've been trying to do with Leon, is really getting him to do as much intensive therapy at a young age so that he can have a better chance of being mobile later on in life. So it's really important that he has so much interaction with these therapists during that early development stage.
There's a ton of research out there to support early intervention for, not just motor development, but cognitive development as well. And we know kind of the first 5 years of life are super important and super integral to a child's development.